So news has just broke out that Facebook has parted ways with the famous Cambridge Analytica, which was a company in charge with the Trump presidential campaign. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you what happened and probably more interestingly, how they use this type of data to so efficiently change people's voting behaviors in this case. First, it's very important to understand the claim is that Cambridge Analytica exploited Facebook's weak data policies to harvest data of upwards of 50 million Americans, which they eventually used for commercial benefits. And how they did this? Well, it turns out they had an app built by a professor that was supposed to be a fun exercise to give you a personality profile, which then they sponsored and managed to get around 200,000 personality profiles. But the trick here is that not only they took the data from your profile, but they also harvested data from your friends' profiles. And this is how you get from 200,000 to upwards of 50 million people. And it turns out they were successfully doing, from these upwards of 50 million people, they managed to do 30 million accurately enough personality profiles. So there are three problems here. First is that the professor was supposed to take the data for educational purposes, for scientific purposes, and he actually passed it over to Cambridge Analytica for commercial benefits. And the second is that Facebook's data policies were extremely weak at the time. They have since fixed that. And the third problem is that Facebook actually requested Cambridge Analytica to remove all that data immediately. And it looks like Cambridge Analytica did not comply with that request, which is why they banned them. All right, so for the second part, how could they use this data so effectively? Because after all advertisers are looking for our data. It's very important to understand that traditionally advertisers are looking for demographics data. So the way targeting works in digital advertising is through demographics, age, sex, or basic stuff that me and you can understand and expect that advertiser to show me various products on. Like for example, if I recently visited the page of a new external hard drive and I didn't buy it, then Google will keep showing me that ad over and over again, so that eventually they can influence me and make me buy that product. So it's very important to understand that this is a macro targeting technique, right? So they target me on very broad terms, and not much is changing between these rounds of advertising. And also important to understand is that the technique is based on persuasiveness, right? So they are being as persuasive as possible, so they can eventually change my mind here. Now, the difference in the Cambridge Analytica case and the difference with Facebook and why Facebook so valuable nowadays is because instead of using these broad criteria to target us, they are actually allow much more information to be passed on to advertisers. And advertisers are building something called a psychometric profile, which is even more scary than a personality profile in some cases. By gathering hundreds and often thousands of data points of each of us, so they could eventually spot some well-known cognitive behaviors that they could exploit using well-targeted ads. So while in the first case, in the traditional scenario, the targeting was done using macro techniques, this type of advertising is using micro techniques, especially tailored to each individual in person. Now, let's look at an example on how this actually works, and I'm sure you'll understand what I'm meaning here.
For example, on gun control or the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, there's one message for people scared of burglary.
And that's the picture and the message that you would put on their Facebook page or somewhere like that?
Exactly that.
But for what they call closed, agreeable types, the message is rather different.
The same issue, gun rights. This is about the father that teaches his son to shoot.
Okay, so as you can see here, we can no longer talk about the scenario of persuasiveness, but instead this is a manipulative behavior. So actually, you are targeting someone because you know they are weak, you know their weak spots, and then you actually try to exploit that for a political benefit in this case, but it could be also a commercial one. So hopefully this gave you enough insight as to what's really going on. Maybe also let me know what you think in the comments down below. And thank you for watching.